Welcome to Fantasy Football Court. We are four regular guys talking all things fantasy football. Unlike some other shows, we only talk about fantasy football. We make our arguments, we present our cases, and you are the judge. We are all in the same fantasy football league. The people are real, the league is real, and our trash talking is real. Court is now in session. All right, welcome to our first fantasy football show. My name is Charles. To my right is Nick. To his right is Andy. And to my left is Jeremy. We're very informal, as you can see. We don't have the technology that some of the other shows do, but I feel like sometimes there are a lot of smoke and mirrors, and I don't get the information that I want. Hopefully with this show, you'll get some information to help you win your fantasy football league. I've been playing fantasy football for quite a while. Been playing since 1985. We played before there was the internet. I remember looking at the USA Today to have to get our scores and things. We did them by manually. We are all family. Andrew is my son, Nick is my son-in-law, and Jeremy is my other son-in-law. What happened is we'll get together for birthdays or Father's Day, which is what happened here last week, and inevitably we always wind up talking about fantasy football. The rest of the family's doing whatever they're doing, and we're discussing our upcoming season, and we thought we'd just get together and host a show. So hopefully you'll learn something, hopefully it'll be entertaining, and it'll be informative. That's what we really want. The opinions expressed on the show are not censored in any way. Each one of us are allowed to say whatever we want to say, and they could be ridiculed for it, but anyway, they're allowed to say what they want to say. On this first show, we're going to look back mainly at this last year. Someone once said, the one thing men learn from history is they never learn from history. And if you can learn from your mistakes from last year, hopefully it'll help you this year. So mainly what we're going to focus on today is just looking back some of last year and discussing maybe what we did right, maybe what we could have done better, and we're going to discuss some of those things. And hopefully we'll learn from our mistakes. If you don't learn from mistakes, you keep making them. And maybe if you're not getting in the playoffs and you're not playing for the Super Bowl, it could be because you keep making the same mistakes, and hopefully we can correct that. Like I said, we're not going to make many arguments today. There's not going to be many cases made today. We're mainly just going to be introducing ourselves, talking a little bit about ourselves and the fantasy football league that we're currently in. We're not going in depth today with every team. We're not going to look at every position. Again, today is just the initial show that we're putting on. We'll have plenty of time for that in the coming weeks. What we hope to do is in the next 4 weeks, we're going to cover 8 teams a week. We're going to look at 2 different conferences and the divisions in those conferences. That comes out to about 8 teams. And we'll look at all the positions that those teams have in the month of July. That's what we're going to cover. The Hall of Fame game is August 3rd, Thursday night. So that's almost a month away. That's not that far. So to get started with fantasy football is something that you probably ought to start looking at if you're interested. And the first game of the season is September 7th. It's Kansas City versus New England, so we're 2 months away from kickoff. It'll be here before you know it. All right, let's take a look back at last year, and I've asked the guys some questions and to introduce who they are and maybe who their team is. And again, it's very informal today. We're not going in depth, not going to be a lot of statistics today, just to cover who, what kind of teams we have and stuff. And so first question is who was your biggest bust last year? I don't think any of us has ever, I know I've been playing since 1985, I'll be going to my 32nd year. I've never drafted a team that somebody on that team wasn't a bust. Somebody you would hope that would produce for you, would be good for you, but they just don't quite pan out. So I think I'm going to start with Andrew first because I think I know who he's going to talk about for his bust. So Andy, if you'll tell us who you think your biggest bust was last year.
All right, I'm Andrew, and I've been playing for a little while. And my biggest bust last year was Todd Gurley.
Yeah.
I was very excited about Todd Gurley starting out. Everything I studied up on him and looked at him and watched him even in preseason, I got hyped up on him. I remember going back talking to my dad, and he's like, "Who do you want? Who do you want?" I said, "I want Gurley. I want Gurley." And
you got you some Gurley.
I got me some Gurley. I was the 4th pick last year, and my very first pick, Gurley fell to me. I got excited about getting him, and that was one of the biggest disappointments of the whole year for me. Since I got him in the first round, I felt like I needed to play him.
Yeah, you would play your first round pick.
Each week I was like, well, maybe this week he'll get started. But man, he was just on a sorry team. He only had 6 touchdowns all last year.
Ouch.
Zero receiving touchdowns.
Wow.
And in a points per reception league that we're in, that's a big deal for a running back to at least get some. He only had 327 yards receiving, period, only 885 yards rushing, and only 6 touchdowns all of last year. So that was my biggest disappointment of the year, and it still hurts.
And you took him at what pick?
I took him number 1.
Number
the
4
fourth
overall
pick.
And that's what you got. Yeah, I think that qualifies as a bust. And by the way, if you see us looking back, we're looking at our draft board last year. We do have a live draft, and we keep our board here for reference. But all right, Nick, who do you think was your biggest bust?
I could go any of my first 3 picks. It was a bad draft last year.
Let's see who you took with your first 3 picks.
We'll start off at number 3. My 3rd round pick was Jeremy Maclin. Stayed hurt, off and on hurt year, didn't produce nothing. I mean, when I was going in the draft, I thought, well, he's a number 1 receiver. Decent value at where I got him. You know, I thought there ain't no really clear-cut number 2. He gets most of the targets, but man, that backfired bad. My second round pick was Eddie Lacy. I think he's finally cracked double-digit points, and then he gets hurt the next week and is out the rest of the season. But overall, the worst one has to be when your number 1 pick just does not produce like you expect him to. When your first round pick, you want him to be that consistent star player. And at Nuke Hopkins, I'm pretty sure some of y'all out there had the same problem. He just never produced. And a lot of that, it boils down to the quarterback play. Osweiler just wasn't the compliment he needed. It got a little bit better at the end with Savage, but not much. I mean, they just had woeful quarterback play, and that's what led to him. But it's interesting to see what he does this year with the new quarterback, Deshaun Watson. We'll see if he is about the same with the rookie quarterback with growing pains with that, or he bounces back and does good.
Well, that'd be tough to take a wide receiver with a rookie quarterback. But DeAndre Hopkins was your first pick, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Your first 3 was pretty tough. I remember last year I was sitting by Nick at the draft, and I wanted Eddie Lacy bad. I mean, I wanted him real bad. And when he picked right before me. I was upset, but by midseason I was pretty happy. I'm just going to be real brief. Mine was Brandon Marshall. I believe I got him in the 2nd round, and he just never really seemed to produce. Never really seemed to come through for me. The Jets had quarterback troubles, and I don't know what his stats were, but I do know he wasn't very consistent. And I think Brandon Marshall will probably be my bust. Jeremy?
I had 2. One was due to injury, so we'll probably circle back to that a little later. But my guy that was a bust because of injuries was Des Bryant.
Yeah.
He hurt me pretty bad. But my biggest bust, and I still hold a grudge to him against him to this day, is C.J. Anderson. C.J. Anderson, first game of the year, had 20-plus points, and I thought, heck yeah, we're going good. The rest of my team was looking good. I had some late round guys that had really good years. And then CJ's first game was his best game all year. He had 5 TDs, 437 yards all year, 16 receptions for 128 receiving yards. And this was a preseason top 15 back. Supposedly the only back Denver had that year. And he burnt me. I will not be taking C.J. Anderson this year in the draft at all.
I think we all have players that have burned us one too many times, and we try to stay away from them. You definitely don't want to bust. You don't want to waste a first-round draft pick on somebody that you can't start every week. You think a first-round draft pick plays every week except their bye week. I mean, that's just a given. But when you're setting your first-round draft choice, you've got problems on your team, and you definitely don't want that to happen. All right, the next question we're going to ask is who was your most consistent scorer? I think we all have somebody on our roster that, they might not have been the leading scorer all year long. They might not have been the leading scorer every week, but they were constant producers for you. You could count on them for points, game in and game out. And we're going to ask Jeremy. We'll start on my left side for this question. Who was your most consistent scorer?
My most consistent scorer was Le'Veon Bell.
Oh, yeah.
I traded for Le'Veon in week 5.
Wow.
And I gave up Julio Jones and Martellus Bennett and got Le'Veon.
And Gio Bernard.
And, no, I kept Gio. I gave up TJ, didn't I? Was it Gio?
Yeah.
Okay, I gave
still
up.
a good trade.
I gave up Gio too.
You could have gave up your whole team and you'd still got
Gio Bernard was my 4th or 5th string running back at that point.
Yeah.
So But giving up those guys to get Le'Veon was consistent 24 to 27 point scorer for me every week until the playoffs, and we won't talk about that one. But he was consistent all year.
Just for the record, the first year I won the Super Bowl, and that was 5 years ago, so I'm due to get back in it. But all three of these guys made the playoffs, and our league is very, very competitive. I put our league up against any league that's out there. We have informative guys, and we're very competitive. So we're talking to guys that know fantasy football and has been consistent winners in our league.
I can vouch for it being a competitive league. It's competitive. We got
all this stuff.
I've been to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row and lost 2 years in a row.
This is the Buffalo Bills of fantasy football.
Yeah, been to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row and lost to the same guy. The same guy's won 2 years back to back.
Yeah, we got a guy named Joe. He's won our league twice, and we have heard about it every day since fantasy football has ended. He's already telling us to mail him our entry fee. You say, well, how much is our entry fee? We're not going to get into that. But let's just say he could buy a few cheeseburgers, all right? My most consistent player was my first-round draft choice was Ezekiel Elliott. You can't go wrong with him if you had him on your team last year. He just kept getting better and better and better. And there's no doubt that on my team, I could count on Ezekiel Elliott. If you had him on your team, I think you can say the same thing. Nick?
Well, I didn't have any position players there. Man, it seemed like my running backs were good for a couple weeks, and then would cycle in, my receivers were good for a couple weeks, and it never lined up. Then I had to go to quarterback. So quarterback was my most consistent scorer in Kirk Cousins. It took me a while to figure it out.
Kirk Cousins?
Yes, Kirk Cousins.
And you made the playoffs?
I know, it's hard to believe, right? I didn't have nothing in any positions.
That side of the league was weak.
That unless you count my kicker, Justin Tucker. It was that bad. Well, anyway, it took me a while to figure out that he was consistent. He was at least 18 to 20 points every week.
You can't beat that.
And you can't beat that in the quarterback position. It took me about week 5 where I really realized that he was consistently getting points every week. And it wasn't until, I don't want to talk about playoffs. Until playoffs, he let me down. I mean, he late in the season, he got me on a winning streak where I got into the playoffs. I got to the conference championship game. He's going against Carolina, who, had a horrible defense all last year. He just blew up on me. And just at the most crucial point I needed him to, though.
You got any tissue down there, Andy? Is there any tissue for our friend Nick here? He seems to be going back, and I don't think he's quite over it yet.
I still wouldn't rule out drafting him this year, though. I mean, I would say I'm lucky. He got me to the playoffs. He got me where he got me. I mean,
Did you draft him or pick him up?
No, I drafted him.
Okay, all right. Well, consistency is the key in fantasy football, and if it's 18 to 20 out of your quarterback, I think I'd almost rather have that than have 35 one week and 10 the next, or 9 or 8. There's a lot of quarterbacks will do that to you. Andy, who do you think was your most consistent?
I didn't have any that really were awesome every week, but there were several of my guys were pretty consistent on points. I mean, it might not have been high scoring, but DeMarco Murray was one that really impressed me. I didn't expect to get the consistency out of him that I did, mainly because
you got him in the 4th round.
I got him in the 4th round.
That's a good pick for the 4th round.
And the reason why I didn't think I would get a lot of consistent points out of him was because of sharing the ball
with Derrick Henry.
But he ended up getting me more points consistently than I thought I would. And at the end of the year, looking back, he was of course, Gurley was a bust. So, he was a solid running back, and I can contribute going to the Super Bowl. A lot of it was on his shoulders. He was pretty consistent all year long.
Okay, that's good. All right, the next question we're going to ask is what late round player produced the most for you last year? You hear about the term a flyer. That's somebody in the late round, back when people are drafting kickers maybe, or maybe a defense. You take a player that you hope maybe could possibly turn out to be a big scorer for you. And, we all have what we term sleepers. What we call sleepers, and that's somebody and in this day and age, it's hard to get a sleeper. I mean, with ESPN and CBS Sports and Yahoo Sports and all these things, it's hard. I remember, I'll give you a quick story and I'll move on. When I first started playing, I'd heard about this player from Mississippi Valley State, and there was no internet, and there really was no fantasy football magazines. We were just getting started, and I kept telling my league, you wait, the last pick of the last round, I'm going to draft one of the best players. And who I drafted was Jerry Rice from Mississippi Valley State. Well, when I said that name, it was in Minnesota. I remember them laughing at me. Who? From what school? And of course, we all know what Jerry Rice wound up doing later in his career. I believe he's a Hall of Famer. But do any of you have a player that maybe you took a chance on or late, and they wound up producing for you, and maybe the sleeper woke up? Nick, I'll go with you first.
All right, mine was Tevin Coleman. I drafted him in the, as you can see, if you can, up here. I drafted him in the 10th round.
10th round.
And he of course he was sharing the backfield with Vonta Freeman, so he was a little inconsistent at times, but I mean, for where I got him, there was times where he scored, I mean, at least 3 or 4 weeks, he scored at least 25 plus points, and that was great from, a 10th round pick that I really didn't expect to do much, sharing the pick with sharing the backfield with Vonta Freeman.
You forgot Jordan Howard.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that later. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. We'll get that later. We'll get that later.
We'll get that later. Andy, you have a player that maybe you took a chance on late in the draft and it wound up producing for you, son?
I don't know if it was a risk or a chance. I don't know if I had anybody that really stood out as that. Somebody I did get in the 9th round was Spencer Ware.
Yeah.
And it's one of those picks that, who was the starting running back? Jamal Charles. There was injury there, and they thought maybe, there was a couple running backs there that I didn't know how much time Spencer Ware would get, but he ended up having some really big weeks for me. I got him, it wasn't really a stretch to get him, I guess, other than not knowing how much he was going to play. But he ended up having some pretty big weeks.
Yeah.
And really produced for me, and that was probably one of my late rounds. I didn't really have any stretches I went for. I got a quarterback real late. I think I took a quarterback in what round was it? In the 14th round is when I got my starting quarterback, and he did all right for me. So.
Yeah. It's always good if you can pick up a backup running back late in the draft that no one would think to draft. But boy, if that starter goes out, your late round flyer all of a sudden becomes a starter.
And that's what happened with me.
Yeah.
In a couple weeks, he won it from my team.
Yeah, that can happen. But then again, you can waste a draft choice picking somebody hoping that the starter goes out and it doesn't happen. I'll go with the next answer. Will Fuller was probably my later player, but again, the same thing with DeAndre, and he wound up taking a lot of points from your DeAndre Hopkins, your bust. But towards the end of the season, Will Fuller started falling off again with Osweiler's play. And the thing with wide receivers, they are so quarterback dependent. If their quarterback isn't consistent or can't get them the ball, it doesn't matter. You put Jerry Rice with Houston last year. You can put the greatest receiver there is. If the quarterback's not getting them the ball, it's not really worth it. But Will Fuller did pretty good for me for the first half, maybe first 2/3 of the season. But after that, he kind of fell off. But I'd have to go with Will Fuller. Jeremy?
I actually had multiple.
Of course you did. You're such a great drafter.
Picks 12 through 16. Look at picks 12 through 16 at OU. With me, Michael Thomas, New Orleans Saints, had a breakout rookie season. Jimmy Graham ended up top 5 in tight ends at the end of the year, pick 13. You skip down to pick number 16, Derek Carr of the Raiders. And then you got Robert Kelly, who ended up becoming a starter for a short time for the Washington Redskins.
We didn't have a sticker for him.
Yeah.
So that was a stretch.
So honestly, I only lost one game of the regular season last year, and picks 12 through 16 are really what won them for me.
Y'all notice how he slid that in there? He only lost one game.
Absolutely,
he did good. He did good.
But then the playoffs game.
Yeah.
That's all right.
I only lost one game in the playoffs.
That's right.
Hey, did you have Robert Kelly at the end of the season?
No, I dropped him.
Yeah, exactly. If you had him, didn't he score big points in the playoffs?
I don't think so. I went back and looked, and he had a 4-game section. And then when I dropped him, he kind of tailed off, if I'm not mistaken. But we can talk about
I know. One week he had 30-something points for Jen.
Yeah.
All right, on to the next question.
I didn't beat him then because I had Le'Veon Bell.
I think we've all had players, and we're going to get to that here in a little bit, maybe a player we've dropped that has come to burn you. And I don't think I know who he dropped, and I don't think he has anything on Jeremy, but we'll get to that here in a
I
minute.
dropped my last pick. Not the best running back I had.
In Jeremy's defense, he did drop his last pick of the draft, the 17th pick, or the 17th round, the last pick. But we'll get to that here in a second. But I do got another question. What you hate to see when you draft a team is you hate to see an injury. Maybe you got a guy that's producing. There's nothing wrong with him. He's being productive. But, you know, he falls down, he steps on the cat, falls down the steps, he's at his house, the next thing you know, you get an update, your player is out. And that is so frustrating. He doesn't go down necessarily on the field, but he could get hurt on the field. I remember one year I was playing Jeremy, first game of the season, and his first quarter, my player goes out, and it just happens. But the question is this: did you have any injuries last year that hurt you, that caused your team to suffer? And I'll start with Jeremy first on this one.
Dez Bryant.
Yeah,
He absolutely killed me. If Dez would have stayed, and I could have had Dez and Emmanuel Sanders with Le'Veon Bell consistently through the year, that would have been I'd been hard to touch even at the end of the year. But Dez was in and out, and they kept pushing his comeback later and later and delaying it, and it didn't kill me, but it hurt.
It didn't help. Yeah, no doubt about it. That would have been a good player had he stayed on the field. Nick?
Plus, it questions my value this year with him, because last year Dak Prescott got in a sync with some of the receivers, and even when Dez did come back, he wasn't as familiar with Dez, and he wasn't there.
Yeah.
So it makes me wonder if now Dak maybe doesn't feel as comfortable with Dez as he does some of the other guys, and it may cost Dez some targets later on.
If Dez is healthy and they go through the training, the spring or the fall training camp, and they're able to get on the same page, Dez could be. But then again, you still got those injuries. We're going to talk a little bit about that.
Let me say this though on that. I had Dez 2 years ago. He's my number one.
Yes.
We got the other draft board from 2 years ago.
You can't see the other draft board, but we save them.
And he was my number one pick 2 years ago, and the same thing happened. He went out with an injury, and he was my number one pick.
Yeah.
And it hurt. So we're going to get into some other stuff later on injuries, but he's one that scares me.
And all of these players we're talking about, I can assure you, either you or somebody in your league had them, because we're just like every other league. But injuries definitely do. They hurt. They hurt the player, but they hurt us too. So, Nick, did you have a player maybe that hurt you?
Well, I had a lot of injuries out.
Where's the tissue? Where's the tissue?
Hey, all I can say is I'm very lucky I made the playoffs. I can say that.
If you wouldn't have went on that late run, you wouldn't have.
No, I wouldn't have. And
was it a late run, or was it everybody else crumbling?
It was a late run, and he played the right.
Well, no, there was at least two. Yeah, I played the right people. There's 2 or 3 weeks where I had the high score and the highest score out of everybody. And it was like 2 or 3 weeks in a row where I had the high score.
But everybody else was having bad weeks.
Yeah.
At that point, I'd already clinched the division, and I was benching players to save them from
But do you have one that kind of stuck out to you, or you want to talk about?
I want to talk about, Eddie Lacy, it kind of hurt, He was just seemed like he was hitting his stride. He had just hit, I think he had 12 or 14 points the week before he got hurt. And I think the week he got hurt, he had already had 10 points at halftime. And then he never came back out of halftime and was out the rest of the season. And I held on to him for a little bit longer than I should have, just hoping he might come back and hit his stride. But the biggest, I think, might be Jeremy Langford, just for the fact that when he got hurt, he lost his job.
Yeah.
When somebody gets hurt and then they lose their job, it's basically like they're out for the rest of the season.
Right.
So.
And I've had Eddie Lacy in years past, and those of you that's had him, Eddie Lacy is a second half running back. Yeah. And, you get him, if you had him last year and he just didn't seem to produce, you kept waiting on that traditional Eddie Lacy, going to pick up. Now he's with Seattle this year, so it'll be interesting to see, how he's able to work into that backfield.
I think he learned that from the college he played for, showing up the second half team.
And maybe with that weight loss contract in his contract,
and he did get the incentive.
Yeah, he's been hitting every incentive so far. So maybe him cutting that weight and having an incentive in there, he'll stay
only
low.
Be a 2-down back in Seattle, though.
Yeah, that's just a loaded backfield. Loaded backfield.
It is a load. That's one backfield I'd probably stay away from. But I will say, I think Eddie Lacy has the potential to be a superstar. In this league, he has the potential.
Yeah, he's got to keep that weight down.
Yeah,
got to
keep
lay
weight,
and he just has taken a ton of hits playing at Bama and all of that.
And the thing about it, at Bama, he didn't take many hits because he only really was the main starter in 1 year, and he kind of stayed banged up at Bama too.
Yeah, he had a good line at Bama too.
Yeah, he got a great offensive line.
The thing I've noticed with him is he is a tough, physical, straight up runner. And he's a punishing runner, but you're also hurting yourself over the long haul.
Yeah.
And I think he's taking some hits. But yeah, I could see him hurting you. All right, is that about all you want to cover for your injuries right now?
Yeah, that's all I got right
Proud
now.
enough. All right, Andy, did you have any injuries on your team?
I did. And my third overall running back was Arian Foster,
Oh yeah.
and
Didn't he quit? Didn't he retire?
he got hurt, and right after he got hurt, he went ahead and retired. And so, he was my third overall running back. That was probably my biggest injury.
Yeah.
And really, I didn't use him a lot in the beginning. It really didn't hurt too bad, but as far as injuries, that's my biggest one, Arian
Yeah.
Foster.
What the running back stable you had last year didn't really hurt too bad.
I feel like I had a good running back squad. So
It always helps when you have extra players at every position, especially running back, because the league, we play in a 12-team PPR league, and 12 teams, you're getting pretty thin at running back. If you have one go down and you go to the waiver wire, there's really not a whole lot left.
Right.
So if you get a position you really don't want to get hurt at, I believe, is running back. I believe there's a lot more receivers and other things. But I didn't really have any injuries on my team that I can think of because I'm smart, intelligent, wise. I know who to pick. And I pick players that are going to produce and not hurt themselves, falling down over a cat down the stairs and get hurt. So I think I was pretty good on that. All right, the next thing we're going to talk about, and I think every fantasy owner's had this problem. It's who you start every week, and you put a guy on the bench because you don't think he's going to produce, and he goes off. That is so frustrating to see a guy on the bench have a career day or have a high day, and you didn't start him, and you don't get to count those points. But what makes it even worse is you'll keep him on the bench, and then you'll finally play him. He don't produce, so you put him back on the bench, and he produces again. And I was going to ask the guys, they have a player that was inconsistent, but they were consistent on the bench. You would start them, and they'd just be, remember that cartoon where the frog wouldn't dance and wouldn't sing? He got in front of people, and then a guy with the little cartoon character would get by himself, and boy, he'd sing and do the top hat, and but it didn't matter because nobody
Wasn't in the
seen it.
spotlight.
Yeah, he wasn't in the spotlight, and he wasn't starting. I'll start with
Was
him.
that on one of those little flip machines that you put the quarter in?
It wasn't a Viewmaster. It was, we had color TV when I played.
that was
fantasy
back when
football.
he was playing fantasy football when the leather helmets with
No,
no strap on them.
Listen, they played. They had a little face mask, and they had
The one more
pads.
face mask they ever
All
bring
right,
that
listen. I'll hurt y'all. All right, Andy, did you have somebody that you just seemed like no matter when you start them, they didn't seem to produce for you, but they'd be riding the pine, and next thing you know, they're producing.
Well, my bench went off every week. I felt like it did. I felt like it went off. But as far as when I started them and not, I really don't. But I did have one player that I did not start in the first several games of the season because I was afraid of their quarterback, Derek Carr. I wasn't really sure what he was going to do.
Yeah.
And I didn't start Amari Cooper, my second round pick. And that was a bonehead move. But
I kept trying to trade you for him. So you kept him on the bench.
I kept him on the bench for like 2, and he went off. And then I finally got him in the lineup. But
Coop's
man,
partially responsible for Carr becoming the highest paid NFL player.
right,
Yeah.
and so Carr ended up being, but I was scared. I don't know why I was scared of, not scared to pick Gurley though on the team he was on, but
Second year players always have a risk though.
Yeah.
Sophomore slump.
Yeah.
There's always fear there.
And
Traditionally,
so,
it seems to happen.
I messed up by leaving him on the bench, but it doesn't matter, man. I mean, if you've been playing fantasy football,
Yeah.
somebody on the bench is going to go off that you debated on whether or not you were going to
Then it
start.
always makes you overthink every other
And
play.
then every week going forward, and then you got a guy like he was saying, he'll go off on the bench for 2 or 3 weeks, and you're like, I got to start him, and it's a dud. I mean, it's just something you deal with in fantasy football.
And
So,
the guy you had starting is on the bench
Yeah.
that you swapped him out with, and he goes off.
it's I mean, I had also had who else? Kelvin Benjamin. I had him, and it don't matter where. If I didn't start him, he had the points.
Yeah.
If I did start him, he didn't have it.
Yeah.
And that was probably the one guy that was opposite every time I started him.
Yeah.
There might have been 1 week he actually produced for me. The rest of them, it just wherever I put him, it was going to be the opposite.
There always seems to be a player like that, and I think we've all had them on our roster. Nick, do you have somebody that?
I know, just to speak a little bit, Kirk Cousins and Tevin Coleman, it took me a little while to figure out that they were actually producing some points. But the biggest thing is Marcus Mariota. That one.
Yeah, I remember that.
I mean,
Oh.
I would be sitting there at halftime and have 2-4 points. I'm like, what is going on? I was like, and it was only the weeks I started. When I had him on the bench, he would get
Yeah,
about
I remember
15,
that.
16, 17
Yeah,
points.
I remember
And I
that.
got so tired of his inconsistency,
Yeah,
I let him go. Of course, as soon as I let him go, 33, 36, 30, 28, I'm like, and by the time I tried to pick him back up, but he was long gone by then.
He gets better. He has got a bigger release. We'll get to that here in a little bit. He's got a bigger release than that. So
that wasn't even my biggest release.
Yeah.
I actually, tell you the truth, Mariota did not even hurt me. He actually helped me because the first round of the playoffs, if I would have started him, I would not have made it the second round of playoffs because he didn't have a good week that week. And I had Kirk Cousins, who I think had like 25 points or something like that. If I started Mariota, I would not have made the second round of playoffs. So, and all in all, I'm glad I cut him. Even though he did start going off, I'm glad I cut him.
Yeah, right after you cut him, between weeks 5 and 12, he was, if I'm not mistaken, the highest fantasy football scorer during those weeks.
Yeah,
He started the week after you dropped.
And it was just like, really. And think about it, with Kirk Cousins was being so consistent, it really didn't hurt me all that badly.
Yeah.
And the rest of your team did good kind of during that time because that's what gave you that push to get.
And I think it might have helped you too because your first round playoff opponent picked him up.
Yeah, playing that first week.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't really have any, consistent player that didn't produce for me. It's intersparse and erratic. So, but it is frustrating. I did have players on the bench, and like you said, you struggle. You put them in the lineup, and Friday you take him out, and Saturday you put him back in the lineup, and Sunday morning you take him back out, and of course he burns you. But that's how it goes sometimes in fantasy football. Not only do you have to pick the best players, you got to decide what players you're going to play every week. And you got to look at the matchups and everything, but it's tough. It's hard. Jeremy, do you have anybody?
Michael Thomas of the Saints. When you deal with a receiver that's not the number one wide receiver on his team, and you deal with a rookie at that, you just get nervous every time you plug him in.
Yeah.
And I would overthink it, and I was the proud owner of some 4 and 5 point games from Michael Thomas. And then also turned around and he had multiple 20-plus point games with the Saints last year, and every one of those games was on the bench. I don't think he scored more than 11 points in my starting lineup, but I only started him like 2 or 3 games.
Yeah, we all have those players, and it's just something.
He will be in my starting lineup this year, though.
Well, if you get him,
if I get him,
if you get him.
And just for
he
you,
will be the number one receiver.
Just so y'all know, we have a redraft league. We don't have a keeper league, so everybody goes back in. And on the Hall of Fame game on August 3rd, we pull the draft order, and then either 2 to 4 weeks after that, we have our draft. But we have a couple of weeks where we know, what position we're going to be in, and I know where I kind of want to. I hope where I'm at this year.
This year's draft order is going to be different. Normally, I try to stay. I won't but picks 4 to 8. Usually in the Serpentine.
Yeah.
This year, I don't know that I want picks 4 to 8. I think I would rather be top 3 this year.
I think everybody.
I think we're all consistent.
And really, everybody 4 through 8 made the playoffs last year. It was everybody that was in the middle of the draft.
That's right.
Teams that made
But I
the
think
playoffs.
this year's going to be different. I think the top 3, and I think we all know who we're talking about. There's not another top 3. I mean, once you get there's a top 3 level. There's that top level is all those 3 players. And we can go ahead and say their names: Ezekiel Elliott, David Johnson, and Le'Veon Bell.
Once you get past those 3 running backs, you have to pick a wide receiver because there's not another running back that's worth a first round pick.
Are you on a running back just because
There's not
They
that
won't
many.
come back to you.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard after the first 3 picks.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you don't get one of the
For me,
first
it's 4.
picks,
I got a sleeper in the first one. But after that, it's hard.
unless somebody makes a boneheaded move and you're
keep
sitting
Leonard
at 4.
Fournette, and
No.
I'll let you have him in the first round all day long.
Thank you.
I tell you what surprised me is how high on the board that Jay
Yeah.
is. Man, I'm seeing where he's going in the late first round in some drafts, and that's considered.
He's going to be the man over there, and he ended up surprising last year.
Yeah,
This
with all the running
year
back
in
committees.
PPR though, you may have to flip your strategy, and instead of going running back pretty early, go running back late and load up on 2 heavy-duty wide receivers, and then try to get
You may be forced to do that. You may
You
not-
might be forced. Yeah, but
Because
I
of
don't know.
options.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a good strategy.
Well, let's just hope that
Well, last
we're in the
year-
top 3.
If
Well,
you don't
last year, my first 2 picks was wide receivers.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I did trade out and get a running back
Yeah.
mid-season,
Yeah.
but I was doing fine before I made that trade.
Le'Veon
If you
Bell.
can't get the guy you want, that's what you got to do. But it's
Le'Veon
just-
Bell fell last year because he was suspended for his
First three games.
first three
Or,
games.
actually, it was the
It
first
was
four,
four,
but then it got reduced
Yeah.
after our draft.
But when we drafted, it was 4. It got
Right.
reduced afterwards. And I believe Tom Brady also had a suspension.
Yeah, 4 games.
4
suspension.
games, and he
He ended up
fell.
doing
And
good.
once he came back, it was just
You
like,
make a case him being
Yeah.
the number 1 quarterback.
He was drafted in
it was-
the 8th round last year.
All right, we're getting a little bit off topic. We're going to talk about these in upcoming shows, but we're just going to stick with these for right now. The next question is, well, let me answer this. What was this? What was the?
Bench.
Oh, I already talked about that. I didn't really have anybody that was consistently on the bench. The next question is, what was your worst decision last year? Maybe you picked somebody up, or you dropped somebody. You made a trade that wound up hurting you, and if you didn't, it's not a big deal. I didn't really have any decision. I personally don't trade. I never have. The whole time I've ever played fantasy football, I don't like trades. Or mainly I just don't like the trade that's being offered. If you're going to offer me a Le'Veon Bell for my kicker, I'm going to jump all over that. But I've just never really seemed to like a trade that I felt benefited me. So I personally don't trade. I never have. So I can't really say I've traded or dropped anybody. But I'm going to start with Jeremy with this one. Jeremy.
Come on, we got to let Nick start with this.
We'll
one.
go to mine at the end.
No, I'm saving the best.
Save
Saving the
the
best
best
for
for
last.
last.
Y'all got to hear this. And if you had this player, you probably did the same thing early in the season. We'll get to it here in a moment.
Mine is I work, and I'll tell a little background on myself. I work in the sports industry, so I'm friends with several NFL agents, things like that. So obviously, I make phone calls pretty much weekly during the season, trying to find out different things. And one of my friends represents CJ ProSize, and he texted me and said, "Hey, he's going to be starting this next week. You need to pick him up and put him in your starting lineup because I promise you he's going to go off." And I thought maybe he was just building his client up or whatever. Now, this agent is a huge fantasy football player. He actually wants to come play in our league. We
Right
just
now,
don't have room for it.
We have a waiting list. We have a good league. We have a waiting list to get in our league. So if you're interested, we'll add you to the list. But one of the requirements we have is you have to attend a live draft. We don't do it online. We have it catered. And our draft is a big, big day. But if we have an opening, I'd like to have him.
But he told me to pick CJ up. I didn't. I waited, and he had, I think it was 24 points that
Wow.
game.
The next game.
The very next game. I don't remember who picked him up. Was it one of you guys that picked him up?
I did,
Charles,
yeah.
was it
I
Charles?
think it was.
But somebody else ended up getting him, and I didn't. And it was just I should have listened to his advice. But sometimes you think you know better.
Yep. Sometimes you do. Nick, no, Nick's last. Andy,
Yeah.
did you have a player that maybe you added or dropped or traded that didn't work out good for you?
No, I really didn't have anybody that stood out as
Yeah.
far as a pickup or a drop that ended up
Hurting you. That's what we're talking about. Is a decision that hurt you.
No, there's nothing that hurt me.
Other than
well,
Todd Gurley.
well, I wrote that down on here. Even though it wasn't an add or a drop, I should have dropped Todd Gurley. I mean, that hurt me. It did.
Yeah.
And the reason why it hurt me is because I kept playing him. And if you drafted him,
You did
you
too.
probably
Yeah.
played him because you felt like, man, he's my first round draft pick. I mean, in leagues, and
Yeah.
when you look at the average draft position, he's going in the top 3, top
First
4.
round. Definite first round.
And
When those mental games start playing, sometimes you do have to just purge them off your
That's
roster
right.
Yeah.
to keep you from having the battle back.
Yeah,
and
but
forth
how did
so
you drop a
much.
first round? Did you drop him all
No,
year?
I kept him all year.
So you got to a point where you didn't play him. You just put him on the
I
bench.
got so frustrated. I started them every week, then I put them on the bench, and
yeah.
I was in my
But
mind.
you wasn't turning loose
in my
at first.
mind, I'm walking in the locker room like, you're not playing today. You're not performing, and it's just just trouble.
It's
man,
hard to
trouble.
drop a
So,
first round draft. I mean, you're talking about waive a first round draft choice. That's tough. Even though your first round draft choice wasn't the best, you didn't waive them, did you? You didn't
No, I
waive.
never waited. I waited to half my team, but it wasn't him.
I did-
Speaking of waivers,
yeah, here we go.
Yeah.
let's let
So-
Nick describe what we're talking about.
As much as Mariota went off right after I dropped him, the worst one, I mean, has to be Jordan Howard.
Yeah.
I mean, as he alluded to early, it's bad. After week 1, I knew I had Langford. I knew if he got hurt, I know that's why I drafted him via backup. Just in case he got hurt, I'd have him there. Well, after week 1, it just seemed like he wasn't going to be a factor. It seemed like it was Langford and Kadeem Carey. That was who was going to be. And it just didn't seem like he was going to get, the touches. So, I seen Jalen Richard kind of went off. I said maybe he's going to emerge as number 2. I can get him a backup because I also have Latavius Murray. So I thought, okay, well, I'll trade that out. Of course, Jordan Howard just has a phenomenal rookie season, and is second in the league in rushing, second or third in the league in rushing yards, and then
he slipped right through your fingers. No, you threw him down.
I
He
mean,
didn't slip through your fingers. You body slammed him.
I drafted him in the 13th round, and he would have been a mega steal.
Oh,
he
yeah.
would have been my late round surprise. I would have been a lot. I might have made the Super Bowl. What do I know?
Yeah.
But I dropped him, and it was just a big mistake.
Definitely was a mistake.
Yeah.
And,
It just seemed like that happened a lot that year.
And if you play fantasy football for any length of time, there's always that decision. Do I let this guy go? Do I hang on to him? Like he did with Todd Gurley, I wasted a first round draft choice on him, and do I let him go, or do I keep him, or do I hang on to him? And he had Jordan Howard, and he's not producing, and it's a tough one. And I'm sure we all have players I have players on my roster I never started the game. Do y'all?
I do.
Yeah, and it's because you hope that
The starter goes out and you.
or they're going to produce. They're going to finally start producing. They never do, but they got that potential. But we'll move on to our next question. I'm going to answer this one first. What is your most frustrating moment ever in fantasy football? It could have been a fumble, a missed field goal, a drop pass. I think we've all had a moment where, if you've ever seen Toy Story, you remember when Woody is trying to light that fuse or whatever, that rocket, and the wind. I think the wind blows it out, and no. Well, I remember a couple years ago, I had James Starks and Eddie Lacy for Green Bay,
Right.
and I also had other running backs, but I got mad. I needed to win, and I just go with both of them. I started
Points.
guaranteed. I got the backfield locked down. I got Green Bay locked down. They could hand it to Stark because I had Eddie Lacy, and I would set Starks, and they'd give it to Starks. I'd
Right.
start Starks, and they'd give it to Lacy. Forget this. I'm starting them both. I was watching the game with Andy. He was
Right.
over at the house. Green Bay was on the 1 yard line. They loaded up, and I'm telling you, they handed the ball off to Coons, and he scored a touchdown. You talk about hot.
They kept handing it to Coons
Oh,
a couple times.
Yeah, so I got Green Bay's backfield locked up with Starks and Lacy, and they're handing it to Coons. Great day. All right, I'm gonna let probably Andy start with the next one, but that was my most frustrating moment. I'll never forget that. I was so happy. It didn't matter. They're gonna give it to one of those running backs, but Coons. I'm gonna let it go.
That happened a couple
That
times.
happened a couple years ago, and I'm
Well,
still mad
it
about it.
actually happened a couple times this year where they've been.
Yeah, but I didn't have them both this year.
Yeah, I'm not talking about just in general football. There's a lot of times where they were handing the fullback a lot this year.
Yeah, Green Bay
Even
does
I
that.
think it was the Kansas City Chiefs. They even had an offensive lineman or defensive lineman score a touchdown this year.
They
the
went
backfield?
on anybody's.
Yes.
They put him in the
No,
backfield.
they didn't have him in the backfield. I think they threw like a little screen pass to him or something. He just
Oh,
walked
that's
He
in.
was ineligible. He was
Yeah, he was
ineligible
almost like a
receiver.
tight end. Yeah.
That's frustrating in fantasy
Yeah.
football
That's
because you
very
can't pick
frustrating.
up that guy. He's
No,
deep.
which
Well,
I mean, why would you pick up a
You
defensive
wouldn't.
lineman? Yeah, I mean, like a couple years
But
ago,
he's
they had
taken away
J.J.
from
Watt.
your guy.
J.J.
That's
Watt
J.J.
was-
Watt was going in tight
Yeah.
end.
Those of you that play fantasy football, every week there's a player that's an elite scorer that nobody has.
Oh, every week.
Now that may be the only week he does
And the waivers are
anything,
blowing up.
and the
after
waivers are trying to go after him, and the sucker never does anything else again. But that week he goes off, and it always happens. But Andy, do you have a player that, or a moment that you remember? Does anything stick out in your
Yeah,
mind?
I've been playing for several years, and there's little things over the years, but probably one of the most frustrating things that's happened to me yet was last year. And I think all of us, or most of us, were watching the game together. And I had Ryan Fitzpatrick starting, and he threw, 6 interceptions?
Oh, I remember that game.
I ended up with negative points out of my quarterback, and I ended up losing the game, and I went into it winning.
Yeah.
I think it was either a Sunday night or a Monday
Wow.
night we watched the game. And was it 6 interceptions he had?
It was awful. It was.
I mean,
awful.
every time Ryan Fitzpatrick let go of the ball, the other team caught it.
It's
And that
bad
was-
enough when your player don't score, but it's even worse when they start taking points.
Oh
away
yeah, I
from
had
you.
negative points out of them because it's point per reception league, and you lose points for interceptions.
Oh yeah.
He had negative yards and negative. He had no. I don't think any touchdown. It was just a bad game. That was one of the most frustrating, and it was last year. So
Yeah, you just sat there and watch the crash, and there's nothing you can do about it.
backing up, just driving backwards.
Yep. Nick, do you have one?
I actually have two stories. I have one.
Why do
that
you
was-
always got to have more than one?
I just felt like this was a good story because
Okay.
it was something. It wasn't something on me. It was when I was playing this person. It happened to
He's
him.
played.
Oh, wait,
He's played less years than all three of us, but has more
More
stories
stories.
than all of
Yeah.
us.
Well, anyway, it was a Atlanta Falcons game. It went into overtime. Of course, I had Tevin Coleman starting. He got hurt in the second quarter or whatever, and I didn't have anybody else that was going to produce any points. I was winning by 1 point. 1 point. He had Julio Jones. He was going into
I remember this.
overtime.
I remember this.
He was going into overtime. All he needed was one catch from Julio Jones because he had
And if
one.
the game would have ended, you would have won with
Yeah.
Yeah.
If the game would have ended, I would have won with 1 point. The game goes into overtime. He has
You should have seen Nick when it went into overtime because had the game ended, he won.
yeah, it was over.
He needed that
He
game
was
to be
sweating-
over. He
sweating
was.
bullets.
Oh, you ain't never seen this man act so nervous.
nervous.
Well, anyway, all he needed was one reception from Julio Jones.
In overtime.
One reception in Julio Jones, and Falcons actually had 2 possessions through overtime.
Yeah.
And all he needed was one catch because he had more bench points than me. He would have won if he had one reception. Through all of overtime, and I think a little bit in the fourth quarter, he didn't have 0 receptions.
They thought it one time.
They threw it to him one time.
Yeah.
He had one 30-yard catch that he barely didn't get that left foot in or something like
Oh.
that. Yeah, he got one
That's
foot in.
frustrating.
And I know that had to be the most frustrating thing for him. It was great for me.
Did y'all notice how he switched that? I asked what was your most frustrating, and he gives one of his best.
Well,
That was
I
fantasy
did have
football.
mine. I
He
did
was
have mine.
crushing for
Yeah,
the other
It's
guy.
crushing
Yeah.
for the other guy. The
Yeah.
other guy's not here, Nick.
Yeah, I know.
They can't
but-
He's having to build himself up again because
Yeah,
of the year.
yeah, it was a bad draft.
Yeah.
I had to do something. Well, anyway, mine has to be I have to start by saying we get an extra incentive for having the highest score out of the whole for 1 week score out of the whole entire
Let
season.
me explain that just real quick. Whoever has the highest score in any 1 week gets, we're not going to talk about the amount because that's irrelevant, but they get a good bonus. And reason we do that is if somebody's eliminated from the playoffs and say week, 10, 11, 12, and they don't have a chance, this still gives them an opportunity to get some kind of incentive.
Because he might not have a shot in the playoffs,
Right.
but I need him to beat me.
Right. And well, in our league, if
I've
you,
won it the last 2 years.
yeah, Jeremy's
Yeah.
had the highest score the last 2 years.
Right.
You have to throw that in there, but congratulations, Jeremy. And but if you've had the highest score, and that's why we do that. But in our league, if you're not competitive, you're not filling out a lineup, we may have a spot open for you because we don't allow that. But go ahead.
Well, anyway, I had Kirk Cousins, Jamison Crowder. It was a Monday Night Football game. It was I think all I needed was if I got them, all I needed was 4 points for my kicker, and I would have passed Jeremy's score this year. Well, anyway, Kirk Cousins throws a 55-yard bomb to Jamison Crowder. He runs downfield. I'm thinking, oh, he's got this. He got this. He gets hawked down and tackled at the 1 yard line. And I have both of them. That's 12 points. 12 points, 2 TDs. And he gets tackled at the 1 yard line. Next play, they hand it, I think, to Robert Kelly, and he goes right in.
So you would have had the highest score
Yeah.
of the season.
Yes.
Yeah, that's frustrating.
It is frustrating. That extra bonus would have helped.
Yeah, that's the bonus would have helped. All right, Jeremy, you have.
Mine wasn't really. I guess if you go last year, first game of the year, Denver played that Thursday night game, and as we've already said, I had C.J. Anderson, and the first two times Denver scored, they get down, and one of them they're down on the 22 yard line. And they hand it to their fullback, and he burst out for a 22-yard touchdown for fullback. They go down again, and they're at the 3 yard line, and they hand it to their fullback again, and he gets another touchdown. And so the fullback, first game of Denver last year, scored 2 touchdowns
that's right. I remember
in the
that.
first game.
I remember that.
Yeah, it's frustrating when your team is in the red zone, they're close to the end zone, and you're just hoping your player, touches the ball, is involved, and of course they go to somebody else, and that's frustrating. But that's life in fantasy football. All right, we're going to just ask a couple more questions, but we're going to look towards this year. Again, we're not getting in depth. There's really no arguments here, but we're just going to cover a couple questions, some opinions or thoughts on this year. And the question is, what first-round player, or maybe what player that a lot of people are high on, thinks will go in the first round, that you think is overrated? That, maybe either ESPN or CBS or Yahoo, all the different fantasy sites, and we all know what they are. Maybe they're high on them, but you really don't feel like they deserve where they're at. I will just say mine. I believe it's Odell Beckham Jr. I'm just not convinced that he is worth where he's going. I've never been high on him. He's inconsistent. And I believe now this year they picked up Brandon Marshall.
Yeah.
To me, where Odell is at, I think he's overrated. Is he worth picking up? Yeah, I think later in the draft he is, but not where his average draft position is. Jeremy, do you have somebody you think may be overrated, or you just don't?
I've got a few that I think I'll be very quick though, but my biggest one that has the highest is going to be the highest picks, Antonio Brown. Here's why: I think he's too reliant on Big Ben. Last
Big
year,
Ben's been hurt last year.
well, that's the thing. When we get down to injury people I'm scared of, Ben Roethlisberger's on that list. If you go back and look with Antonio Brown had 3 bad weeks, week 6, 14, and 15.
No Big Ben.
Guess who else had bad weeks that week? Big Ben,
Right.
6, 14,
Yeah.
15. I just think he's too reliant. Also, the Steelers this year drafted Juju Smith-Schuster out of USC, who I actually predict will have a pretty good year. Martavis Bryant is still coming along.
Yeah,
He's back from suspension, ain't
Yeah,
Yep.
so I think those two things are going to eat into it. And then the fear of Ben's getting older, and he's real reliant. The other one, real quickly, Leonard Fournette. A lot of people are really, really high on him. I think that if you take Leonard Fournette any higher than the 3rd round, you're making a mistake.
Yeah. You let him be there at the end of the first round.
If TJ Yeldon, and TJ Yeldon's not as good of a running back as Leonard Fournette, don't get me wrong, but TJ Yeldon couldn't do much. The reason he couldn't do much is they do not have an offensive line. The only offensive line that they addressed this year was drafting Cam Robinson from Alabama. I'm a huge Bama fan, but Cam Robinson was the greatest player that Bama got rid of this year. It helped Bama because he was good for two missed assignments and at least one, if not two, false starts or holds a game.
Yeah.
So I don't think that they're setting themselves up. Then DeMarco Murray. I think the progression of Derrick Henry is going to continue to slowly eat into his touches over time.
I agree.
I actually don't buy that. I think DeMarco Murray's going to have about the same season. I don't buy Derrick Henry. I'm a Bama fan. I don't buy him. I just think he's too big, bulky. He doesn't have the quickness and the burst to play in the NFL.
Yeah, I disagree with that. I think Derrick Henry
is
going to
big.
stay some more.
I do think there will be some sophomore slumps this year from some of the rookies last year that had big seasons. I do not think Ezekiel Elliott will be one of those, but I do think Dak Prescott will be one of those.
I agree with the Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
I think they've got more film on him. They've got more tape on
Who
him.
was your first player again?
Antonio Brown.
Yeah, and the fact that Big Ben is just contemplated retirement, just shows you how much that it's kind of a risk drafting him this year. How healthy is he?
So at number 4, the big 3 are gone. You come into the wide receivers, obviously.
At 4.
You know Antonio Brown is probably going to be there.
I've got to go with Julio at 4.
I think I would do the same. That, or I am tempted to take a running back.
Even still at 4.
At 4, yeah.
Yeah,
I
couldn't disagree.
You got LaShawn
I couldn't
McCoy or
disagree
Melvin
with you.
Gordon right there. I don't know.
Melvin
those
Gordon
names
is coming into a contract year.
That's-
Anytime a player has a contract year, when they make that money, that's when you
the
want to
guy.
get a player. I
Yeah.
always, before my drafts, look at who has 1 year left on their deal, because typically you're going to have several of those guys that just step up and go nuts.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't have Antonio Brown on my list, but how many wide receivers of his caliber have you seen make it as many years in a row before they start falling off? I mean, I mean, you think of Calvin Johnson, you think of some of these other guys down through the years that first round every year draft pick.
And at some point, there's going to be that fall off.
And Antonio Brown, I think you might be onto something this year. It's
But now,
it's still Antonio Brown.
Are we saying Antonio Brown should be drafted not in the first round?
No, he's going to go in the first
he's
round.
gonna go in the first round.
If I'm sitting at pick 7 and Antonio Brown's still
You
on
gotta
the
take
board,
him.
there is no way I can take any other name but
Yeah.
Antonio. Now, I'll be scared to death, and I try to tailor the rest of my draft to make up in case something happens.
I
Absolutely.
almost guarantee he won't be there at 7 though.
Yeah. What
No,
makes
I don't think he
what's
will, but
made
I'm
him
just
the-
saying, if he's sitting down somewhere, anything below 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And what's made him the best receiver the last couple of years is his consistency.
Well, it's Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah, and with Le'Veon Bell running the ball, it opens up that offense, and it gives him able to have more consistency in his points. And receivers are usually inconsistent, and he was one of the most inconsistent. With Big Ben, I mean, how healthy is he? Is he going to be as consistent?
Would you
this
agree
year?
that he is probably the purest athlete at wide receiver there is in NFL right now? Even better than Odell
In the-
or Julio?
Julio.
He's
Julio's-
a freak.
Have you looked? Have
He's
you
on my
watched him?
list of I'm not touching him.
Have you looked at Julio's? I had to watch this past year a whole bunch of kids combine stuff, so I watched Julio's. That guy ran a sub 4.40. He broad jumped 12.6 and had a 33-inch high jump. Those are just crazy.
He's
crazy
impressive.
Yeah.
But Willie Galt was the fastest man in the world, and yet it didn't translate to the NFL. And I'm not saying
Well, I mean, you
I'm
can't
not
put
saying he's a
Usain Bolt out there. It ain't gonna work.
No,
Jerry
yeah.
Hayward Bay fits
Yeah.
that category.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's
But
right.
Julio Jones to me has been somebody I've owned him in the past. I've played it. You know, I watch all the other players even if I don't have them. He doesn't seem to have that elite level, consistent production that you would think Julio. Now he has some great numbers. Don't get me wrong. I hated playing against him. When my opponent had him, I was worried because he could go off. But there was also some times where he just did not produce.
And he's always good for at least not be getting hurt 1 to 2 games a year.
Yeah, that
Every
he's
year,
either got
1
a
to 2 games.
toenail,
he's
a
gone.
toe, an ankle, a lower leg.
It's
It
like a
always
But he's
seems-
also
It's
good
it's
for
always
1
that
to
low-
2 40-plus points.
Yeah,
that's
that is
true.
true. He's going to make up for you that later in the year when he misses.
My luck would be those weeks
in-
I have him though.
in-
I'm playing the guy that has the highest
In
score
our
every
in our
week.
situation, and with getting the highest points in one game bonus, if you can have a quarterback that goes off the same week that Julio
Yeah.
has his big week, it almost assures you that you're in the conversation
Yeah.
for highest points in
Okay,
one
I
week.
agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, and did you would you answer your question there? Who do you think is maybe the most overrated where you're at right now? Do you answer that?
No, not yet. I haven't. I've got a couple on there just because they scare me.
Yeah, I mean that's all it is. I mean you don't
And
have a
Melvin Gordon's one. He's one that has been,
Contract.
and I know contract year, but I'm hearing him in conversations this year, and average draft picks up to this point, he's sitting in the 8-9 spot. You know,
I saw
So if
one
you're
that
setting
took
it-
him at 4.
Yeah.
so if
I'm
you're
saying
setting
that.
8-9 spot, and Melvin Gordon's there, you're a little worried,
I don't know that I
or
take
are
him.
you not worried at all? You take him.
I don't know. I don't. He just wanted to kind of. Odell Beckham was one that I had on my list. that
Yeah, I'm
kinda
not an
scared
Odell
me.
Beckham fan. I'm not.
AJ Green always does
Yeah.
because of injuries and because of Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so those are kind of my top 3 ones that when it comes to me, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know who's there,
Right. You
but those
can't
are
get
3 that
excited
going
about it.
into it.
Right.
I hope they're not available or some of the other people I'm looking at because
Yeah.
I'm
You hope
scared
they
of
take
them. You know,
Nick, do you
Yeah,
have a chance to answer
AJ Green
that?
was another one just because Tyler Eifert's actually going to be here this season.
right?
That's going to take. They drafted John Ross. The biggest thing, they didn't address their offensive line, which was woeful last year.
Yeah.
And that's.
And I had Andy Dalton. He had no time at all.
I mean, Andy Dalton was miserable last year. He had no time to throw. But my biggest, like these two, Odell Beckham Jr. I mean, just inconsistent. And some of it goes back to how inconsistent Eli Manning
Yeah.
is. And I mean, he can't help that. But you know, and
Well, I
then
think-
the acquisitions, Evan Ingram, the tight end was also another acquisition they had that they're going to probably use a lot. And you know, Sterling Shepard. I mean, how he could grow into year 2 and be a stud wide receiver. He was pretty good last year. And I mean,
When we talk about quarterbacks, I don't think Eli Manning would. I don't think anybody here would make a case that he's an elite quarterback.
No.
I think it's possible. He'd probably get drafted in our league, but he wouldn't be anybody's first choice.
no.
So if you got a receiver on a team, a quarterback wouldn't be a first choice.
He wasn't even
How-
drafted last year.
Well, yeah, but coming into this year, I still
No,
don't think
Mom
was.
took it.
Somebody had to
Yeah,
have
in
taken
the
him.
13th round.
13th round.
And I think you're wrong to not draft Eli at some point in your draft. If he's available and people are picking defenses and kickers, I don't think you can go wrong drafting Eli. But I don't think anybody would draft Eli as their first quarterback.
Yeah.
So all of those receivers on that team, which includes Odell Beckham,
Yeah.
why would you take a first-round draft choice on a quarterback that nobody else would even be their
I mean,
first
he had a game
quarterback?
last
You mean like
year where he
Andrew
had
Hopkins?
what he had
Yeah.
4 interceptions last year in a game.
I don't. Yeah.
I mean, he's always
Eli
good for
Manning-
at least a 3 interception game a year.
Eli, was he have 2 Super Bowls?
Yeah.
He
I mean,
does.
you know,
Well,
so the
well
guys
I mean,
are
he
winning.
gets hot.
Which
He's
is
hot.
thankful. He needs to thank Tom Coughlin, who's probably the most underrated
Yeah.
coach in the league.
Well, he has to tank was
Now, who-
David
now,
Tyree for one of them.
Who's he coaching this year? Jacksonville?
Coughlin?
No, he's like a GM at Jacksonville.
Yeah, he's a GM.
I knew he did something with Jacksonville, but I wasn't real sure.
Yeah.
He could help turn that thing around. So.
Yeah, maybe he can. All right, we're going to go on to our next question. The next question is, what player worries you the most for injuries? And we've talked a little bit about that already. You know, there's just a player that you think it's about that time, or maybe they've been consistently injured, and you kind of want to stay away from them. Not that their talent isn't good, not that they can't produce, but if they're injured, they're sitting on the pine with a towel over their head, just waiting to rehab, and that doesn't do you any good. So, Andy, is there a player that kind of worries you for injuries?
Any running back I pick. If I draft a running back,
Yeah.
I'm scared to death.
Well, you had a decent year saying
I did, but the history of this thing.
The
I
history of
know
running
how
backs
it
are
goes.
pretty tough. Yeah,
They're either going to be beating their kids or they're going to fall down the stairs. Something's going to happen.
Got
Did you
burned by that.
wait?
That was Jeremy.
Jeremy picked Adrian
Adrian.
Peterson.
Well,
Adrian
I
Peterson
didn't-
got he
I
didn't
didn't
get
want-
injured.
I
He
didn't want
beat his
Peterson.
kid, and he got suspended.
That hurts.
I didn't want Adrian Peterson, but I'm sitting at pick number 6 or
Oh, you
7
gotta
that
take
year,
him.
You gotta take
and there
him.
was no choice
Yeah, you
but
gotta
to take
take
him.
Yeah.
And he
So,
took a
And
switch
if
to
any
his
of
kid.
y'all played fantasy football for a couple of years, somebody in your, he was a first round draft choice, and y'all are laughing now because somebody, either you or somebody in your league, picked Adrian Peterson, and he got suspended for nothing football related.
right.
What about Ray Rice? Didn't he
I know.
knock his girlfriend
Yeah.
cold on the elevator? How do you like to have Ray Rice, and that's how he goes out?
Right.
And
That's-
that
And
happens.
injuries another thing, but when they get suspended by the NFL for the season,
Yeah.
or just some dumb-headed move, that's a whole nother
Hey,
category.
I had Josh Gordon, and I think he smoked dope again. Didn't
Like,
he?
yeah,
Didn't
he was
get
planning on
substance?
coming back, and
Yeah.
they said
Yeah.
when they reinstated,
Yeah,
he said, "Nah, I'm not going to come back.
Yeah.
I'm going to go into rehab."
Yeah, you're going to go into rehab. And I picked him, in the 7th round? I believe the hype. Josh, my man, you were going to come back and play well.
Yeah.
But you didn't.
It's frustrating.
It's frustrating. But we're talking about injuries, though.
Yeah.
Is there a player that, you talked about Julio Jones a while ago. You're a little worried about him.
Yeah, I have him on the list just because if I had him, that's probably what would happen.
You'd
But
worry.
AJ Green's on there, of a player that I'm worried about.
And if you had Rob Gronkowski last year.
Yeah,
And he
that's
is.
that's
you're
when I
getting
have on my list.
mine.
Yeah, and so and then another one, and he's also on a list of somebody that I'm not going to draft anymore, Des Bryant.
Yes.
I mean,
We're gonna
he's
get to
burnt
that here in a
me
moment.
more than once.
Yeah.
But on my injury list of who I'm worried about, those are some of those. But any running back, and then some of those wide receivers. So
So you just take any running back. You don't care.
just pick them. I'm scared of injuries. I mean,
Yeah.
look.
Well, they take a pounding. They
They do.
Yeah, they do. They don't last
And
very
if
long.
you're the
Yeah.
main running back for a team,
And it has to be a running back for the most probability of injuries is the ones that's played for a few years and they're due. It's like your tires.
It's
You don't
coming.
change them; they keep rolling, and something's gonna happen. You have a blowout.
That's why you're always
That's why you
you're
gotta
always
have
risky to
handcuffs.
take like an Adrian Peterson this year, Frank Gore, some of these older guys. You don't know how much they got left in the tank.
That's true.
You don't know if they're going to produce. They might have a couple good games a year, but
I mean, what about
how healthy?
Well, one
can they
thing we
stay
know,
all
one
year?
thing is inevitable. There is going to be a fall off. What's the issue is when.
There's
If
gonna
they
be
got another
injuries
good year in them,
preseason.
They,
there's
hey,
gonna
the
be
first
some
4
that-
weeks they could have, they could tear it up first 4 weeks, and then they run out of gas and it's over. I mean, I think with Arian Foster, I think he just ran out of gas, got hurt,
Yeah,
and
he's
he was
retired.
retired.
Yeah. And if you had him,
I had them.
sorry about it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I had them.
All right, Nick, is that your spiel?
Well,
on it?
they kind of touched in. Des Bryant, Gronk. Them were probably two big ones. I mean, even with I have Julio Jones on my list too, but I mean, just you're going to have so many good games out of it. 1-2 good games a year. As long as it's not in the playoffs like it was last year, you might be okay. But I'd still probably draft him pretty high, even though I am a little scared of injury.
Yeah, and I think we're all on the same page. I mean, he said any running back, and we talked about him. The one that probably sticks out to me is, oh man, it slips my mind. Jamal Charles. I think did he go to Denver?
Yeah, he's another
Man,
old running back.
It'd be hard for me to waste even probably a 4th round draft pick on him.
Wouldn't go that.
That's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be willing to take a high pick on him, even though he has been. I mean, I won my league one year just with him.
Yeah.
That's the year I won the Super Bowl, and I wasn't excited about it. He has the ability to produce if he doesn't get hurt.
Well, I mean, going back to last year, even when he got back healthy, they said he was healthy at the end of the year. They just cut it.
So it's time to move on.
Because
Yeah.
I just think he's out of gas. I don't think there's.
And
really
Denver
much
really
there
hasn't
anymore.
had a leading high-scoring running back, consistent,
No, not in a while.
not in a while. So I don't know if this will change.
I
Jeremy,
mean,
Pretty much what you guys have said. We covered a little bit earlier, but I think Ben Roethlisberger. I actually think Roethlisberger is a candidate to, if he gets a major concussion or a pretty decent injury, that he may retire mid-season. I would not.
Pull Arian Foster.
I would not put it past him at
I
this
think,
point
I
in
don't
his
know.
life.
He seems like a tough enough guy where he would try to put it out for his team, but I don't know if he'd be the
Yeah, but
same
Ben will
player.
run out there in a wheelchair and take a snap.
I-
I mean,
I
but
think-
is that helping your team?
But like before, they've always questioned how much heart is in it because he always seems like he's kind of not the guy that he seems like a big burly tough guy, but at a point like how much he seems like a Jay Cutler. He doesn't really care when he's out there.
Right. I think Ben, and then of course we said Gronkowski. I'll tell you how scared I am of Gronkowski in my preseason drafts that I'm working in my mind. I've got my notes on Gronkowski.
It'd be
He's
hard.
will not pick till fourth round or
Yeah,
later.
I agree. I think
It's just
I think it's
Last year he was going round one with a lot of people.
Yeah, and
Worst
deserved it.
case
Yeah.
round two.
right.
This year, look, you can have
is he
him.
still your number one tight end though?
I think he is, but I don't think it's by that big of a margin.
I
The
don't
reason
know.
that you took Gronk in the first, second round is because he produced wide receiver numbers, not
Yeah.
tight end numbers.
Right.
I think now he produces tight end numbers, and the Tyler Eiferts and the Greg Olsons and the other the Jimmy Grahams, the Kelseys,
yeah.
and the kid from Washington, the Redskins.
Jordan.
Yeah, George.
I think that they have closed the gap
Yeah, I think
between
so.
that where
Not only
that.
that, but the Patriots are sharing the ball.
Oh, I mean the receivers and backfield is
Well, they
just
got
so
Martellus
loaded.
Bennett that
And they're throwing to the
eats
running
away
backs
sometimes.
more than they
Well,
have
like the
been.
Bennett's with the Packers.
Yeah,
now.
yeah. Well, who's the other?
Who did they pick? They picked up somebody this year to be their second tight end. They traded
I
with
do
the
remember that.
Titans. It was a boy from the Titans last year. I actually think. Is it?
Well, we're really not going to get too much into,
Yeah.
we're starting to get off into the tight ends and all that thing. And we're going to cover a lot of this in the upcoming
Dwayne
weeks.
Allen, yes,
Who
that's
was it?
Dwayne Allen.
Dwayne Allen, so they picked him up. But we're going to get into the teams. I mean, we're going to actually break down the teams, break down the positions. We don't want this to be a 3 or 4 hour show today, so we hope you keep watching. We really want to be informative, and we want you to get some information, hopefully that'll help you. So we're going to keep it kind of brief today. We've already went kind of long, but we hope you've enjoyed it. I know we've enjoyed talking about it. Like I said, every time we get together, it don't matter. We can meet at church or we can meet at a birthday party. You'll see the four of us over there, boy, just going at it. And we enjoy fantasy football, and we hope you enjoy it as much as we do. The next question is, what is the one player you never want on your fantasy football team? You just don't like them.
Todd Gurley.
And tell us what you really think.
It's my turn.
It's your turn. You don't want Todd Gurley. Third round, Todd Gurley's on the board. You're on the
I'm
board.
passing.
You're
You gotta
passing
take
on
I'm
Todd
not leaving
Gurley?
Todd Gurley.
How late in the draft?
Boy, he hurt you bad, didn't
He hurt my feelings last
He
year.
hurt your feelings bad.
How late in the draft before you actually consider drafting him? You go fourth, fifth, sixth round?
Oh, no.
What do
The
you
question
consider
is, you never want him on your team. He can be down there in the 17th round, and you're not taking him.
I don't know.
Next year might be another story, but this year I'm
This year.
determined not to get Todd
You're
Gurley.
gonna have somebody else right
I hope
there.
you guys
He's hurt
keep
my
your
feelings.
emotional attachments to these guys on this stuff, because unless you're willing to push that last year's draft aside and focus
That's
on
what you
the
have
facts
to
this
do.
year,
You do.
then you're gonna
Well-
you're gonna end up hurting yourself again, which I hope y'all do, because I'd like to win the Super Bowl. This
You can
year.
have Todd Gurley.
This is an emotional. This question is an intentional, emotional question. This is somebody who's hurt somebody, and they've let you down, and it's like the girlfriend that just keeps cheating on you, or lying to you, or being unreliable, and you just done with them. You just done with them. And I think we've all had players that, he said a while ago about Dez Bryant. And I just don't know that I want him, and that's not necessarily my answer, but
He scares me too.
yeah, I mean, there's
It's
just.
just-
I think we've all got players
That's
that
just injury.
they let you down week in and week out, and they just don't seem to produce for you. And you're like, I'm done. I don't care if he's there. I know the ADP says I ought to take him, but I just don't want him. So you said Todd Gurley. You got one?
I mean, I'm saying this is like it's an emotional decision, but at a certain point, I'm putting emotion aside and I'm going to draft the guy. If like one of my guys, Antonio Brown, but I'm sitting there in the second round, and he's just sitting there. I'm like, okay,
No way
He
he
won't
says
get there,
that.
yeah.
yeah, I'm just
You all
saying.
said
You're not that retarded.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I'm
do
not-
love him now.
But
yeah,
if
I'll
you're
take it.
if you're in the top 5 or 6, or
If
even
he's
the first
sitting
round,
there
you're
and
not
picks,
getting Antonio
if
Brown.
he's picking at 7 or 8, you've got to consider it.
I don't know.
You
if I
don't?
would. I don't know.
I don't think
it might-
Antonio
it would
Brown
take
needs to
maybe
be in this
10 or 11
conversation.
picks before I
Antonio Brown's never hurt nobody.
No, he hasn't. I don't know. I just.
I mean, I know Ben Roethlisberger had bad weeks. It's
I
caused him
think,
bad.
I think
This
Nick
year,
was
next
trying
time
to
we're
get
gonna
cute
be
on
sitting
this one.
Yeah.
Now, look, I'll make a deal with you. If Antonio Brown is a bust this year that bad, I'll buy your dinner. So
No, it's not
I
that.
don't
It's
think
not
that's
that.
the case.
I mean, I don't necessarily think he'll be I think he'll still be a decently, consistently scorer. I
But-
just
but,
don't like the guy.
I
I
mean,
mean,
this question.
I don't know
This
what it
says
is.
you never won.
Yeah, I mean, this.
I don't think there's a
think.
player out there, you know, in the top half of the round.
I don't
that
think
I'm
Todd
just gonna
Gurley.
sit
I
there
don't
and-
think. I don't think your player. Who'd you just say?
Antonio Brown.
Antonio Brown. I mean, I don't think any of them are really. I'm just saying, there's a player out there that is a mid-range player, but always gets drafted.
I've got
Always seems to get picked, but for some reason this year you ain't taking him. You just don't want him, Jeremy.
Mine is simply this. I am not drafting anybody that plays quarterback for the Cleveland Browns.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, you were with the Browns.
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't. If I have a Cleveland Brown quarterback on my roster this year, it's because I have melded in and I'm done.
Well, I have to say, it's like if they did make a lot of put a lot of money in that offensive line. I'm not so sure if they start doing a little decent. I mean, that
It's
offensive-
Cleveland
Yeah.
Browns.
Yeah, but it
you
is.
have to
It
show
is.
me something before.
So in other
But-
words, the way you're gonna get a Cleveland Brown player is maybe on the waiver wire in week 10 when you're desperate.
If that, you know, I just look. Cleveland. Cleveland is the new Oakland Raiders. Remember when Al had the Oakland Raiders and they would just make the dumbest, most
Yeah.
idiotic decisions and all of that. Now that it's turned over to new direction, that is now the Cleveland Browns.
Well, if you remember last year,
They're a
the
dumpster
Cleveland
fire.
Browns scouts told the ownership they want Carson Wentz. Cleveland fired those scouts.
Right.
And Carson Wentz turned out to be a really good ball player for the Philadelphia Eagles. And so, yeah, Cleveland has not made the best decision. And I wouldn't have a problem not picking the Cleveland quarterback. Mine is probably the New England backfield. I don't want any of them.
The same thing with Seattle.
Seattle, yeah, I really don't want any of them.
I don't think I'd touch any of them either.
I mean, even in the late rounds, because you're not going to get that consistent play. They don't have that solid running
Well,
back.
you've got a question. You still draft him, but I think even Green Bay's backfield fits in that a little bit.
There's two
They-
or three teams that are like that.
They've
They're
got a
like,
wide receiver play
unless
running
I
back.
have to have them, I'm really staying away from them.
And we'll know a little bit more once the preseason starts in August. But again, you can't always go by preseason. I've seen players do well in preseason and come right before the draft, before the regular season. Boy, if somebody's excited about them, start them, and start regular season, they don't do nothing. So you can't always go by the preseason. The preseason can give you some indication, but man, I've seen players look like world beaters in preseason, and they didn't really pan out during the
I
regular
mean,
season.
that's the same thing last year when Adrian Peterson went down. I saw Jedrick McKinnon in the preseason. I thought he was going to do great for Jeremy. He didn't do nothing.
Yeah.
I think he had one good game.
That was one of my reach picks that I thought, or that was one of my later round picks that I thought was going to do really good.
I thought
for
it
me.
was too.
And
All right, we're gonna get finished up here. We got one more question we're gonna ask each of us, and then we'll get right to the end here. And we hope you've enjoyed it. This question is: if you had the number one pick right now, not end of August when things can change, but if we were drafting right now, who would you pick number one? Who would be your number one overall? Again, given you're not locked into this, it's just right now. If the preseason changes or there are injuries or whatever, it would change. But if you had to pick right now, who would be your number one pick? Andy, I'm gonna start with you, and we'll go down the line.
David Johnson.
You'd pick David Johnson.
Yeah, if I had the number one overall pick right now, it would be David Johnson.
Yeah, and I don't think you can't make an argument against that, Nick.
I mean, you can't go wrong with any of the three top running backs. Really.
But who would you take? That's the
But
question.
that's what I'm just saying. I'm leading it, but just because of Dallas's offensive line, Zeke Elliott. Just on the offensive line alone,
Yeah.
their offensive line is so good and so dumb. Which they did lose, I think, one or two starters this year, but the core of that offensive line is still there, and they're just so good. You can't go wrong with Zeke
I
Elliott.
agree. I think I agree with that. I would take Ezekiel Elliott as well. I think Dak Prescott may have a sophomore slump, but you can't hold that against him. It hasn't happened to him. Nobody thought he would do as good last year as he's done.
Yeah.
And I think he's going to be maybe even a year better than he was last year. Hopefully spread that ball out, spread the defenses out, and give Ezekiel all the running room he needs. And I right now, my pick would be Ezekiel Elliott.
I'm David Johnson wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
If I have the first pick in the draft. If you have the first pick in the draft and you don't pick David Johnson, I think you're making a mistake. Here's why I the sophomore slump thing scares me with Zeke Elliott. I don't think it's going to be significant, but I think there's definitely going to be a little bit of a slump there. Then you compare Le'Veon Bell, David Johnson. The biggest thing I hear when I talk to scouts, when I talk to agents and stuff, they talk about how many miles, running back, how many hits. Every scout, every team has a magic number of hits that a running back will take before they mark them as expendable. That number is somewhere between 1,500, 1,600, 1,700, 1,800 hits. When you look at that, David Johnson has only been hit 534 times in the NFL.
Now, is this his third year in the league?
This is his third year in the league. He's only been hit 534 times. Le'Veon Bell has been hit 1,135 times.
Wow.
So I think that just because of number of hits received, our bodies can only take so much punishment. So I think with Le'Veon, the risk of injury is greater, the risk of breakdowns is greater, and also with the fears I have about Ben Roethlisberger, I think that knocks him down.
Yeah.
And David Johnson is significantly the number
Well,
one.
let me ask you this. Knowing what you just said, let's say you're the third pick and David Johnson's gone, Ezekiel Elliott's gone. That doesn't prevent you from taking Le'Veon Bell next?
I think at the third pick, I'm still nervous. I may look at a wide receiver at that point, possibly. Or I think that LaShawn McCoy very well may have a really good year this year. He scared me before, don't get me wrong, but I would possibly look else. I'm not going to say that I wouldn't take him because he's made me a good bit of money over the years.
Yes, he has.
But I don't know that I'm quite sold on him this year.
Let's say David Johnson doesn't have as good of a year. He had 20 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
20 total touchdowns. If he just
amazing.
backs off of that a little bit, he's still higher than everybody else in the league.
He had, 328 fantasy football points.
Yeah.
Le'Veon Bell had 242, but he missed 3 games. But that difference is 86 points for 3 games.
Yeah.
So he averaged over 27 points a game. He would have had to average 27 points a game in the 3 games he missed to catch David Johnson.
It's going to be really hard to have another 20 touchdown year, but he's still tops him.
Well,
I can't just.
The only negative against David Johnson is Carson Palmer.
Yeah.
If Carson Palmer goes down, then it takes some of the fear of going downfield. But here's the other thing. I think the plus with him is the defensive secondary of the Cardinals, because I think they're going to get some pickoffs between. They've got probably the best secondary.
Yeah.
I think they'll get some pickoffs and get them down inside the 10-yard line where David Johnson gets some easy touchdowns.
I think
from that with
Patrick
Peterson and the Honey Badger.
Yeah,
even if they take a step back, though, they're still good.
Yeah, but I mean, they put a lot of money into Honey Badger and Peterson, but who else they got? They got rid of Tony Jefferson because they couldn't afford him because they gave all the money paying the Honey Badger, and they lost another guy, safety, the year before that.
We're going to be breaking down the teams in the next
Yeah,
weeks too.
we'll get into that. Yeah.
We'll get into all that, and I know we've taken a little bit longer today than we probably will in the future, and but we'll get into all the teams. We'll talk about the positions of each of the teams, what we think about them, but and this will get better. We're still working on it. We're just getting started. But hopefully you see what we were talking about. And you got some information today, I promise you, you won't get on ESPN or Yahoo. And we don't have all the flashy things. We don't have the replays. We don't have the visual aids and all that kind of stuff. But listen, I've watched these things for years. And I don't know about you, but when I get to the end of it, I didn't really get that much information. I didn't get much fantasy football. And that's all we've talked about today. And that's what we hope you get.
Being in the entertainment business, which is what I do for a living, you have to cater to who signs your checks.
Yeah, that's true.
And I promise you, if you don't believe me, you're crazy. But the guys at ESPN, the guys at Fox, the guys at CBS that do their fantasy stuff, they are instructed in their contracts. They have to give preferential stuff to their big matchups on TV that week.
Maybe their conference they're
And-
covering.
And they're going to be funneling stuff for more viewers because that's how they make their money. So there got to be a little bias. Here, there's nobody
No.
signing us a paycheck,
No, we're
so
not getting
there's
that.
no bias here.
We're doing this because we enjoy it. And what we want you to do is you make your own judgments. We'll say whatever we want to say, and it's your choice. But we just hope that you're getting information, and we hope you enjoy it. And another thing, we're going to be setting up a Twitter account. And you have one set
We
up?
already got the Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We got that set up and going.
And
We'll
we'll
call it out for them. So
Yeah,
they know.
make sure you like our. I think all of our handles on all the social media is at FF Court.
Yes.
correct.
Fantasy
so-
football court. Yep.
So look up at FF Court on Facebook, like our page. If you have a question, something you
Send
want
it to us.
send it to us on Facebook or DM
Facebook,
us through
Twitter,
Instagram, Twitter, something like that, and let us know, and
We'll give you our opinions.
Yeah,
you can judge if we're crazy or if we're smart by how we answer your
But
question.
what I think you're going to like about us, we're just like you. We have a job. We don't work for any of the networks, and we
Trying to.
love fantasy football. We love playing fantasy football, and we hope you do too, and we hope you really enjoyed this show. So if anybody else got anything they want to say, if not, we'll close it out till next week. Everybody good?
I'm good. I'd like to hear from any of y'all what maybe your biggest story is, and if it's
Yeah.
good enough, we'll share it on here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe we'll share your story on here. Nick,
Yeah.
got anything?
No, I think you covered it all.
All right, Jeremy, got anything?
Appreciate you watching.
Yep, we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next week.